The meeting going on behind me is one of our regular meetings. It's in response to two things. One is a very large landowner, the Homes and Communities Agency, and the other is the Peterborough City Council. Peterborough City Council have set up a local plan which they believe means that a really good idea is to put 2,500 houses, a large settlement or urban extension, effectively a township in the middle of open countryside. This is despite their own local plan's vision, which says we look forward to a characterful network of villages within an attractive rural landscape. So bearing in mind there are 4 or 5 villages in an attractive rural landscape, we're just wondering what part of that vision is achieved by plonking 2,500, about 8,000 people and 4,000 cars in the middle of some of Peterborough's best countryside. We find that quite astonishing. But it's not even as bad as that, because the Homes and Communities Agency, a government agency with apparently very little accountability, and with the word communities ironically in their title, think that actually it should be double that. It should be 5,000 houses in the middle of open countryside. It's a small town, but they believe that by dividing it up into sectors and calling them villages, that this will actually show that they're improving the countryside and improving the amenity and actually creating communities. They're doing nothing of the sort. It is a numbers game. The council say it's a numbers game, the Homes and Communities say it's a numbers game. And this is in an area of landscape where there is fantastic wildlife, rich Roman heritage, some of the best in the UK, and indeed a lot of the identified remains and national and monuments of Roman character, half of them are in the area that we're talking about, and yet City Council seems to ignore all those. There's been very little consultation with the community, and therefore we have decided to take action. We've done that on the back of a group we've already been involved in, which is putting together neighbourhood plans which show how the community want the area to develop. We are not going to go away with this. We believe that once it's gone, and therefore we have to campaign to make sure that this retains its overall countryside and rural feel. And Protect Rural Peterborough. This is Peterborough's backyard, where Peterborough comes to walk, to cycle, to ride, to enjoy, and yet it would appear there are forces that would prefer to trash that in the move towards higher numbers. By the way, one last thing. Everybody we talk to with regard to this whole subject, everybody in local government, in development, in planning, in politics, looks us straight in the eye and says, there's more than this than meets the eye. And we are going to make sure that we uncover what that is. With a great team of people, these are all volunteers who put thousands of hours into this programme, and we are not going to go away. Sort of skills we've got on board, people involved in, naturally with any campaigning, you have people who are marketing communications. I myself have had a very long marketing and somewhat successful marketing career, not all the time. But we've also got people who have a great deal of experience, like 3 or 4 decades in planning, housing development, environmental science. We've also got several people, including my own son, who are masters or doctors of environmental science, ecology, and understand the richness and the threat to the habitats around here and the biodiversity of this wonderful countryside.
Do you think the confusion is that people just see, put people first, put planning first, and all these other factors are secondary? Is that not, some people just don't see that, do they? They don't understand the interrelationship between all these things.
No, that's true. People don't understand the interrelationship with it. And it's very telling that what we're fighting against and challenging and objecting to is what's called a local plan. That local plan covers what the council thinks that should be in terms of housing numbers and the locations and business and industry that goes along with it. By the way, just to re-emphasise, 2,500 houses the council think, plus 16 pitches worth of industrial and warehousing in the middle of the countryside, on rising ground, overlooking the Nene Valley, just to put that in context. What they haven't done, they have no master plan. They have no master plan for the overall increase in population for Peterborough, which is supposedly objectively assessed need of 27,500. Now, bearing in mind that people that sort of level of influx of people and new people and developing, What are they going to do for hospitals? What are they going to do for GPs? What are they going to do for social services and social care? What are they doing in terms of public transport? What are they doing in terms of anything, social services and the public sector support, which enables people to live varied and rich lives? None of that work has been done. And therefore, yes, I think it is a case of it's all about the numbers. And in the current political climate, that's where people have settled. I think they're being irresponsible, and I in particular think that the local government want to take more heed for what the local area needs.
So your wish is that this doesn't go ahead?
The wish is that it doesn't go ahead, no. It would be a false economy. It would trash one of the best areas of countryside around Peterborough. Some people would say, oh, that's just a bunch of NIMBYs talking. Well, the reason why we know it so well and we know what the impacts are is because it is in our backyard, but it's also in Peterborough's backyard. We know there are hundreds of visitors who come here every month who wander around these lanes and they say, why are they doing this? We've asked them, why? They tell us, why are they doing this? This is the only bit of Peterborough, this side of the city, that hasn't been touched. And yet they're going to do this. Why will they do it? It's because it's a numbers game.
And if you were a betting man, Martin, what would you say?
I've never been in anything I didn't think I could win. And I know I share that with everybody in that room. There are about a dozen people in there tonight. We've got a hardcore of about 30 volunteers, and we've got a wide amount of support among the village. We have all agreed we need to look at ourselves and say, we could look at the chances of how we win it. I think we've got a great chance. But what we all have to do is to look ourselves in the mirror. We're part of a community, and we have to look at that and say, in a few years' time, did we do the best job we can to get the best possible result, not only for the community, but for Peterborough? And that's what we're aiming to do.
And this story here is being told and repeated all around the country, presumably?
I'm sure it is. We've looked at several examples around the country. Interestingly, in some areas, they've actually cooperated and understood some of these challenges. I believe it's in, I can't remember which part of Oxfordshire it is, where actually the council came to around about 8 or 10 villages and said, okay, here's the challenge that we have. Here's how we might want to work together with you. And each village said, okay, so there'll be a smaller development, there might be some development inside the village. And in fact, our own neighbourhood plan says that we're prepared to accept 10% growth. But there, the villages worked together and they had a plan for the rural area. This isn't a plan for the rural area. What they have actually called it is an urban extension. It's 2.5 miles from the nearest piece of urban area, and yet that's what they've said it is. I suspect that's happening all over the country, and therefore one has to take responsibility, if you've got any sort of responsibility with the area that you live in, to say, actually, we're going to take some action about this, and we're going to see if we can stop it.
When will we know? When will we know the verdict?
When will we ever know? It's certainly going before the count. It's going to the planning committee, the scrutiny committee. Scrutiny, that's an interesting concept in local government. The cabinet and the plan throughout September and October. And then a revised local plan will come out in November. And then we'll see. And then you've got an inspection, and then you've got a consultation period, and then you've got an independent inspector. We are making sure that we have a robust case. So we think the fight will go well into 2018 and probably beyond. But we ain't going anywhere.